What's up, guys? Jason up New Age Revolution down here in the cave for part 2 of Undetermined. Indetermined? Undetermined. Not yet decided. Part 2 of Not Yet Decided of WWF Wrestling Superstars by LJN Memories. That's right. Memories. First episode we talked about getting Hogan and Andre in that whatever summer, fall, spring of 1985, and having to figure out a way to play with Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and have a good time with them and keep my interest peaked until Christmas of 1985, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I don't have any idea how I stayed invested in these things other than yes, I do. You know, just saying that is foolish because I'm thinking with an adult mind, right? So I had Hogan and Andre pretty quickly after they hit the shelves, and then didn't get any more until Christmas of '85. So I probably had to go at least 6 months or longer until I got another batch of figures. So, thinking about it through kids' eyes, I've got the 2 figures. I know that there's more because at this point I've seen the commercial. So I at least know that there's Big John Studd, Jimmy Snuka, and Iron Sheik. I know that they exist at least. But I've got Hogan and Andre, and they're good enough for now because I've still got pretty much all of 1985 WWF to keep me madly in love. Okay, so remember, this is at a point when I am head over heels in love with at least WWF wrestling and starting to explore NWA on TBS. So just the fact that the commercial still aired, just the fact that I was watching wrestling, feverishly, just that fact alone, I assume, kept me interested in this toy line, because what else would when you only have 2 figures, right? And like I said in the first episode, I really don't ever recall going to a store and seeing the other figures before Christmas. Not that they weren't out. I'm saying I don't think I went to a store. And in 1985, for a 9-year-old, that's not uncommon to not be at a toy store, and for any reason, randomly go to a toy store, right? That didn't happen. Any friends at the time did not have these figures, so I never saw Iron Sheik, Big John Studd, and Jimmy Snuka in the flesh until Christmas of '85. But like I said, stayed very interested. Now, Christmas of '85, by that point, there are more figures. By that point, there are what I have always called Series 1B, right? Or because in my mind, and I don't care about facts, in my mind, Series 1, I think I keep saying season, but Series 1 were 5 figures in my mind, period. Nobody can convince me otherwise. And then shortly after that, Series 1A or 1B that featured Nikolai Volkov, Junkyard Dog, Roddy Piper. I think Hillbilly Jim was included in that batch. Who else is up there? Yeah, that's it. Maybe, yeah. So, Nikolai, Hillbilly, Big John's, Nikolai, Hillbilly, Junkyard, Piper, and maybe one more. I can't see behind the custom Samoans. Anyway, they had also come out by Christmas of '85. And again, I don't recall seeing them. I'm pretty sure that I saw them in catalogs. The Sears Wish Book of '85, or the JCPenney Toy Catalog of '85, or the Service Merchandise Catalog of '85, whichever had a nice had a nice display in the catalog. And I believe by that point, the Bring Home All the Action commercial included the newer 1A, 1B figures, okay? The figures beyond the first 5. So I'm pretty sure that I was aware of who existed by Christmas of '85. So this is tarnished a bit by parental divorce. My parents separated in, I would have to guess maybe around summer of '85. Maybe. Yeah, maybe around summer of '85. Maybe a little later. I think the writing was on the wall in summer of '85 because I remember going camping with my mom, a cousin, my sisters, and my dad stayed home. So I think something was happening. I think the writing was on the wall, at least summer of '85. And then I just kind of guess that by September '85 they were fully separated. I could look. I mean, I could ask my dad, I suppose, but I could look on online. I think there are divorce registries online. But anyway, I think September '85 they were living separately. So Christmas of '85 was a little tainted because of the divorce. But so I truly don't remember any other Christmas I'm sure we got other Christmas presents, but I don't remember any other Christmas presents in 1985. I remember the tree being up. I remember I was a snooper of presents, absolutely a snooper. I would find presents, all over the house. The ones that Santa didn't bring, of course, I would find. And so my mom, because she's clueless, I suppose, because she has a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old at the time, or a 4-year-old actually at the time, 9, 7, and 4. And she's putting Christmas presents out prior to Christmas Eve. Yes, they were probably the ones from her, obviously not the ones from Santa, but still, what kid wants to see presents under the tree like a week before Christmas? That's never been my style. But anyway, there was a bag, or there was a big sort of pillowy looking thing wrapped underneath the tree, and it was for me. And I remember one night, poking a little hole in the wrapping paper and then seeing a plastic bag behind the wrapping paper. So then I kind of pulled the plastic bag apart and I could see inside the plastic bag. And it was what appeared at the time to be about 100 LJNs. But since it's only Christmas 1985, it's probably 5 or 6. And, but what was interesting, and this just scorches me, my mom was not the most, yes, okay, so she was going through a divorce. Fine. I get it. She's not in the right mindset. She's like in her early 20s at the time. No, not early 20s. I was 9. She was probably 28, 29 at the time. But she decides, well, he's got 6 or 7 of these big, giant, bulky figures. I'm not going to wrap each one. That would be too much. That would be silly of me. So what she did was she opened all of the packages, threw out all of the card backs, kept the posters, I assume. Yeah, I'm sure she kept the posters. But put the figures loose with their poster in a plastic, shopping bag or something like that, and then wrapped the bag. Yeah. So I remember not really being able, I didn't want to open the hole too much, so I could only see, and this is truth, I only could see Roddy Piper and maybe like Junkyard Dog's boot. but I was sure that I was getting Roddy Piper Christmas of '85. Okay, so Christmas morning, I open the bag and I get the figures. And then the only memory of Christmas '85 that I have is I don't think I got the ring for Christmas of '85. I don't think I got my first ring until '86. Like early '86 though. Because I remember really struggling with the turnbuckles. Getting the rope through the turnbuckles for a kid is impossible. You can't do it. Getting the ropes through the turnbuckle for an adult is impossible. You can't do it. They're too thick. So you have to either get a really, a thin flathead screwdriver and kind of push it through. I remember my dad coming over and doing it for me, but we were in an apartment, so we weren't in the house. So I think the wrestling ring got put together. I think I got the wrestling ring in '86. Because I remember him coming to an apartment and helping me put the turnbuckles on. So I didn't even get the ring for Christmas of '85. But I do remember getting this, the wrestling album. But I got it in cassette form. So this also came with a cassette attached right here. Same backing, same everything, very cool. Obviously it didn't open, right? But it had a cassette right here with plastic over it, whatever it's called, saran wrap or whatever. It was carded, right? So you got this big old package, big old album cover with a tape right here, right? So I got the wrestling, and then this was crossed out on purpose in red, and then underneath it said cassette. So you got the wrestling cassette on a wrestling album card back, right? So I remember getting that. And I remember very distinctly, because that beautiful, awesome stereo that I'm trying to find a picture of, that stereo is in the living room, and I wanted to play the wrestling cassette for Christmas morning music, and I was approved. And so I'm dancing around the living room Christmas morning to Land of a Thousand Dances and Grab Them Cakes and Tutti Frutti from Mean Gene. But I've got probably now at this point 10 figures, 8 figures, and that's how it all began. That's how it all began. Sometime in mid to early to mid '85, I got Hogan and Andre. Never saw another figure until Christmas '85. Never saw it as in owned it, never saw it as in saw it in a store, but watching wrestling and being totally wrapped up in it, and the awesome commercials kept me in love with the line, and Christmas of '85 brought, obviously, enough wrestlers to begin a federation. And I certainly don't remember early how I played with these figures. I don't remember if I just jumped right into having storylines with 8 or 9 guys. I don't remember that. I don't. I assume one of the first matches that I had in '85 was like Snuka versus Piper. I assume. But I couldn't believe, Piper had a kilt and Junkyard Dog had a chain and Volkov had his hat. And it was just great. And then it began, then the obsession with these figures began. But so what I'm going to do with this series is I'm going to talk about '86, summer of '86 for my birthday. I got Greg Valentine and Paul Orndorff and Brutus Beefcake. I remember that. I only remember a few different times when I actually got other wrestlers. And I'll talk about those briefly, because I can't place every single figure. But I will tell you, I will on the next episode, I will tell you how I got the rest. And then we'll go forward from there with storylines and tag teams and bad guy, good guys, and how I would set up dressing rooms in my room, how I would use a ramp that looked like the Maple Leaf Garden ramp, what I used for steel chairs at the time, and any other storyline fun stuff that I can think of. So the next episode, I will try to summarize where I got all the figures, all the way up to the '89 figures, and and beyond. The buyback, maybe all that. So I'll talk about 86. I'll talk about the great day at Toys R Us with my grandmother in, I believe, 86 or 87. I'll talk about, how I almost had white shirt Hogan. I think we talked about that. We'll talk about the Toys R Us, clearance bin where I got a bunch of figures. We'll talk about where some of the tag teams came from, and then we'll wrap up, how I got the figures, and then we'll start talking memories of actual play. Yes, that's how we'll do it, including how I used to make a WWF LJN Wrestling magazine, completely copying the style of the WWF magazine. In fact, cutting them apart so that I could glue pictures onto notebook paper and make my own magazine. Okay, that's it. We'll come back tomorrow, another day, whenever, and we'll talk about more memories of the greatest toy line in history of all time, the WWF LJN Wrestling Superstars. Good night now.